What is going on, everyone? It's your guy, Cole Jackson, back with another episode of the All-22 live stream here on Two Guys Watching Football. We're going to be jumping into Tyler Linderbaum, center out of Iowa. I'm joined by my good friend, fellow film enthusiast, we'll call him. It's Spencer Schultz of Baltimore Beatdown podcast, does some work for SIS. Spenny, my guy, how's it going?
Going quite well. We are getting deep into this pre-Senior Bowl draft season. It's an exciting one. I'm pumped up. I'm excited to join you for your favorite pastime, looking at the big uglies, looking at an Iowa big ugly, Marshall Yanda, your boy, Brandon Scherf, James Daniels, so many names coming out of there, and I'm excited to get into some Tyler Linderbaum, who I think would have a great name if he decided to walk away from football as a chocolatier, Linderbaum chocolates.
Yeah, and I mean, the guy's going to have a nice state fair career if he ever needs to fall back on it. We're going to get into a little bit of his background here. So Tyler Linderbaum, he's been talked about a ton amongst Ravens fan lately. That's why I want to get to him. He's not going to be at the Senior Bowl as a redshirt junior, but it's a good thing you bring up because I know you're on the Senior Bowl every year, obviously. I don't remember, at least with the O-line group, I don't remember such a star-studded Senior Bowl group. Like, do you? Does this seem abnormal this year?
Definitely not. In general, I mean, offensive line is stacked. The tight ends are really strong. Last year was a really bare tight end year. The defensive front, I would say, is on par or as hyped up as it has been in a few years here. So this is a big year for the Senior Bowl, and a lot of that it does have to do with COVID and the fact that a lot of guys were given that extra year of eligibility, and there was a lot less scouting ability for NFL scouts. You know, the draft class was a little smaller last year overall, and so it's going to be a really exciting year where there's a lot of guys chomping at the bit. There's some guys that might not have been there if it had, the world had been normal. A lot of those guys might have ended up entering last year or what have you, but I think it's a great chance. I think the Senior Bowl also is just trending in the right direction. I think they've been doing such a great job highlighting these players and making it more accessible and really showing what guys can do outside of that bubble of whatever school they come from, whatever their scheme is, and who they're surrounded by. And I think it's starting to become a lot more important in the scouting world.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, especially the COVID considerations. I mean, we heard last year about a lot of guys going back to get that extra full year, get that extra tape, all that good stuff. So today we're looking at Linderbaum, redshirt junior from the University of Iowa, where he's played center. He's out of Solon, Iowa, which is about 15, 20 minutes from the University of Iowa. So he's not too far away. He went to Solon High School, extremely decorated high school career. As both an offensive and defensive lineman. He was actually recruited to Iowa as a defensive tackle. He was named to the U.S. Army All-American team as a senior, All-Iowa Elite Football team as a senior, District Defensive MVP as a junior and senior, first team All-State. It goes on and on and on. Multi-sport background here in 4 letters in baseball and 3 in wrestling and track. He was a 53-10 wrestling mark as a junior. He placed 5th in the state tournament at heavyweight. I think the wrestling background it's always going to be relevant for me. I mean, it naturally, it's about creating leverage. It's about driving through your body, stuff that projects really well to offensive line play. There's a clip online that Spencer actually shared with me of him slamming Tristan Wirfs in, I think that was one of the Iowa State championships. In high school, if I understood correctly. Was that right, Spencer?
I think it was like a regional matchup. I think it was like regional heavyweight. I don't think either of them ended up winning. Actually, Wirfs might have ended up winning states ultimately, but Linderbaum got the pin. And from what I read, Wirfs beat Linderbaum on points in the regular season, and then Linderbaum came and got him in regional or something happened. One of them won individual state, and one of them won the team state championship. I think Wirfs might have been the individual champion and Linderbaum, something strange like that. But it sounds like they had a pretty fun rivalry there.
Sounds like it. And then they go on to be teammates. Or what? Right. Did he go to? Yeah, he did go to Iowa. Yeah. And so he also, I couldn't find it in an article, but allegedly broke some Hawkeye weightlifting records for the football team. So that's obviously, we're going to talk a lot about his functional strength tonight, but obviously his weightlifting strength is quite high. So like I said, he committed as a defensive tackle, made the switch after his redshirt freshman year, and then he went on to start the next 3 years at center for the Hawkeyes. Numerous awards, I won't list them all, basically just filled with Remington Trophy nominees, and then winning the Remington, All American, all Big Ten. It's a well decorated player out of Iowa. And then one thing I did note, he was also one of 7 sophomores in the 2020 leadership group for the Hawkeyes, and he was also a member of the Dean's List. So always really important stuff. Started digging around on his backstory. There's not quite as much, but I always like reading some of these stories because it sounds like Linderbaum is just your typical small town farming community. Not a lot to him. He's just hard worker through and through, and that's something that stood out. But one thing I did find, Solon is a farming town known for Solon Beef Days, a town-wide celebration that features a hay bale toss. Simple competition. You pick up a 60-pound hay bale and you throw it over essentially what looks like a pole vault bar. So he takes it and he chucks it up in the air. So he tied for first place this year with fellow offensive lineman on the Iowa team, Tyler Ellsbury, by clearing 14 feet up in the air. That was one of the. I also read about when he was in high school, he was on the baseball team, and their seasons overlapped, so he ended up having to split between baseball and football practice. So, I think it'll show some of he's got a great motor, works hard. I think that's going to show tonight, just especially his motor, because he goes every rep and he's always moving. Very athletic kid. Before we jump into the film, one thing I wanted to pick your brain on just before we start, because this is going to come up all night. It's the concept of scheme fit, and I think that's where some of the initial conversations around Linderbaum amongst Ravens fans has mostly centered, because he's a smaller guy coming out of Iowa, which is very, very zone heavy. So when you're scouting guys and doing your player evaluation, how do you kind of manage the, Tyler Linderbaum or other guys as a player versus their projection into a team like the Ravens? Like, how do you kind of manage that?
Projection's always tough, and you want to try to separate it into two different things. Whether it's something that they weren't asked to do, whether it's something that they failed at mentally. Actually, I guess 3 things. Or it's something that they failed at physically, whether it was from maybe a lack of flexibility physically or from making mistakes mentally versus just simply not being asked to do something. So that projection is always going to be important. You don't always, as opposed to someone who works for a team and is a real life scout, get that kind of inside info on maybe someone's work ethic or limitations or things that they had to have coached out of them or things like that, things that showed up. But you want to separate inexperience from inability, first and foremost. And inexperience does not lend itself to inability, but it lends itself to a learning curve. And expecting someone who, let's say, expecting an edge rusher who was in more of a one gap system with their hand in the dirt, they had a lot of too high run fits from safeties, asking them to go immediately be able to angle and hold the edge in the run game. If you never saw them do it or never saw them asked to do it, rather, that doesn't mean that they can't, but it means that there might be a little bit of a learning curve, and there might be time, a reason why they might not be able to see the field immediately. So there might be some mental growth needed. At this point, physical growth isn't something that when you're playing as a Power 5 athlete, there's not a ton of guys. I mean, he's 21, I believe, maybe 22. I think he's a redshirt junior. He's probably right about to turn 22, somewhere in there. So, guys are going to continue to fill out a little. You get some man strength about you, but Devontae Smith, for example, and that's definitely a very big, hyper-focused example. Oh, when he gets to the NFL, he's going to get stronger and he's going to get bigger. He's going to gain weight. Well, if the Alabama strength and conditioning program couldn't put a lot of weight on him by the time he was 22, I don't know that it's ever going to happen. So there's a lot of ifs and buts and things of that. But in general, it's just trying to split inexperience from inability and then project that way. And you can miss either way on it. So it's like we saw from Ben Cleveland this year, he was too stiff. A lot of times too stiff. He has to have a certain stance. He's locked into that stance. He pretty much got a penalty because of it at one point during the season. So is he going to gain flexibility? That's something you feel like you can gain. You can lose a little bit of weight. You can go towards more core stabilization type off-season exercises opposed to powerlifting and try and loosen up a little bit, things like that. But is that going to happen? That's a shade of gray that we're not going to be able to know. So there's always that variable involved, and that's why there's misses and for 1,000 other reasons. But that's a reason why, I think he can do this, but you haven't seen him do it, and
Right.
it might not happen, or maybe it does. So that's the fun of it to me.
Yeah, shades of gray, like what's in my beard. That's having a toddler right
I'm
here.
jealous. I need some of that salt and pepper in there.
And I mean, so that's one thing with Linderbaum. Obviously, Iowa extremely not just zone heavy, but extremely wide zone heavy, outside zone heavy. And we're going to see that from his film tonight when he gets out in space. I mean, the guy's a menace. I think it's why he's being rated so high compared to a guy like Creed Humphrey. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some hindsight in the Creed Humphrey piece because obviously he had a rookie year that exceeded even probably his best projection. I mean, he was one of the best centers in football. So I know a lot of people are asking like, why is he being rated as like this top 15 prospect? And Creed Humphrey was seen as a late first, early second guy. I think a lot of it is, and I reached out to one of the best O-line scouts that I know, Brandon Thorne, and asked him for his opinion. And he said, guys just don't move like Linderbaum does. And it's true. I mean, the guy has freakish athleticism for the center position. And I think that's, if you're a wide zone team, a team like the Vikings could come into play if they want to move on from a guy like
The
Bradbury.
Rams, the Browns, the Vikings, the Titans, the
Exactly.
49ers.
All of these teams that are going to run that as a staple concept, because I want to be very clear about that. The Ravens do run outside zone. We know that. I think in 2019 they had, I want to say, around 65 outside zone runs on the year. So they run outside zone, but it's not their core principle. And usually you're building a team towards your core principle. They're very gap heavy, a lot of power. Even the veer uses a ton of down blocks, especially from the interior. So their veer option, which is one of their biggest staples, in addition to power, which is probably their staple. And sure, they'll run some inside zone, they'll run some outside zone. Of course they do. Even teams like the Cleveland Browns that are wide zone heavy, they'll still run gap. But usually you're kind of built. So that's where I think we're going to get into some of the some of and what I looked for in some of these clips, and why we'll probably spend a little bit more time on others, is I tried to find situations where he's one-on-one with a bigger defensive tackle, because that's what he's going to be dealing with if he's coming into Baltimore and running a lot of down blocks on gap concepts. It's why they've, I think, I don't know if it was DaCosta or one of their other player personnel guys, but they were talking last year, and there's a quote out there where, he said, we're not looking for a light center. We want a big 310-pound center. Linderbaum, I think, is weighing in around 295. Weight isn't necessarily all that important to me, but what he meant is they want bigger, stronger interior offensive linemen, and that's how they built this team. Cleveland, Powers, Bredesen, all bigger, stronger, heavier guys. So again, not closing the door on Linderbaum. I think this is going to come up a ton, so I just wanted to preface the conversation. So let's get right into the tape. I need to share the file here. We're going to be starting with the Wisconsin game from this year. Just look at the competition here. He's going to see a ton of nose tackle Keanu Benton. He also sees redshirt senior Matt Henningsen and redshirt junior Isaiah Mullins. We're also going to see Wisconsin make some adjustments going into the second half of this game, where they're going to take one of the, I would say, probably a mid-round linebacker prospect in this draft. What's his name, Spencer? You had his name the other
Leo
day.
Chanel.
Leo Chanel. I kept saying Chanel when I was watching him, so I think it's Chanel. What they're gonna do is move him up into typically the opposite A gap from the nose tackle. And what it looked to me is they were trying to take away the interior's ability to combo block, because when you're running these inside zone blocks, that's the key, right? Combo block on the play side, move into the second level, open up holes. And so what it looked to me like they were doing is they moved Chanel down to force him away from doing that. So that was something that intrigued me because he's going to have a couple of, I think I have 2 in here, one-on-one drive blocks against Chanel as a linebacker, and he had a little bit of a hard time moving him. And that's, I think he's coming in at like 6'2", 250 pounds. So big old school Mike linebacker. But again, looking for those opportunities where he's going to have to, do some drive blocking on some bigger bodies without the
heavy lifting. You want to see him fork guys out of there.
Exactly. And we're going to start here. Just a pass set here. I think one thing I had from his game, extremely good processor, especially in the pass game. So 57 is going to come on.
What are you looking for? I mean, a lot of times the center is not getting engaged off the jump.
So they end up getting a sack there, but Linderbaum did his job. I find he does this a lot. He snaps, and if he's not covered up right away, he's got his head on a swivel. He's processing right there,
nice and balanced, and knees bent, ready to move.
And I found
moving, ready to move, ready to help with urgency.
Like very, very, very good pass protector. If you're looking to shore up, even no matter what your run scheme is, if you're looking for a center to pass block, I think he can handle most of the duty here. Plays with really good leverage. We're going to see. Move ahead to the next one. Let this run through. Get the other angle. I think he's inside zone left here, if I have it written down right.
We've got him head up with a 0.
So I think he trips up there at the end. You can't really see it at the on this one.
He didn't fall back. He fell forward and got his legs stuck.
But this is kind of a good play to kind of show what I mean. In the inside zone, he's head up on a 0 tech right now, but he's got the right guard coming to overtake. So what he needs to do is kind of bang him down. He also has a Mike head up right behind the nose tackle. So he needs to bang him, pass him off. And what he does so well in the run game, and I think his ability to create leverage on the play side shoulder of these defensive tackles, he does at a very high level. And so that's what he kind of does here. You're going to see it right here. He's going to beat his man to the spot. Excellent leverage.
Lift his arm. He's going to lift that inside arm so that he can't establish, anything dominant. And he transitioned really well to the second level, just cleanly. His pace is good. He stays in tune with the rest of his line, but you can also see the urgency.
And it's just that ability to consistently create leverage. Like he's just going to go boom, snap, got him, boom, snap, got him. And then like left tackle here loses, or that might be the left guard, sorry, loses his block. But the whole idea is he's aiming at the left guard's outside butt cheek. And this guy, like that gap's open right here. As soon as he seals, that's where that ball's supposed to be going. But 92 comes back across and just beats his man. So just to kind of show what he can do in inside zone, I think that's a great play to show it. We're going to get into, I think, a true pass set here. Is this the one where he launches Buddy? I think it is.
See him communicating pre-snap, flexible in his stance.
That's what I want to show there. Yeah, so he gives help. He's got kind of a one tech on his left side who slants in there, but then he picks up Benton back on his right side.
As he's given help to the left guard, he stays pretty neutral too, and he's got his hands in the right position, so 92 is not going to win inside, and then his eyes are back to see what else is coming. Right there.
Yeah. Like that's Creed Humphrey processing there. Like some of the stuff that we saw from him as a pass protector, that's what he did so well. Head on a swivel, you hear that a lot. Picking up what's going on around him. This is that and his ability to create leverage as a pass protector. Because even there, like he's taking a shot to the face there, but the way he engages Benton when he comes back inside, he's low. He has those natural hip coil right there. Gets right up under his chest pad.
Yep. You can see that angle. You can see the bend in the back so that he can lift.
And you caught it early. He gets under guys.
Hands in the armpit.
Yeah. And that's what you want. That's how you create leverage, especially as a guy that's a smaller guy. So, as a pass protector, high level. I think this is inside zone left again. He's got a one tech on his left.
Look at that pad level.
I think this Iowa line, Iowa's been a bit of a factory lately, and I think this was just a bit of a reset year for them. So I think I noticed a couple of, I think it's their left guard loses quite a bit. I'm not sure who he is, but
You see the eyes again. You see him completely turn. Nice wide base, and he can swivel and turn.
And what he's reading there is 57's reading that kind of backside eight, well, play side eight gap, but to shoot it. And so he's just going to bang down on him. And I mean, he's created leverage there for that left guard. He should be driving right through him, right through 92. So he knows he can leave him. And that's kind of the internal workings of inside zone are always so interesting to me to see how guys navigate it because it shows high level football IQ. And that, coming off him to take 57 on, that's a high IQ play.
I think you could see his stance a little bit. He's ready to move downhill a little bit from where he is when he's snap ready. Right there, you can kind of see that his back is a little flatter than usual because he wants to drive out, keep his pad level low a little bit.
237. Okay, I think this is the one where he throws, buddy. This is, again, if it's the play I think it is, it's his ability to create leverage as a pass protector. This was on third down, I think, so true pass set here. Yeah, see, like that's just like you said, he's right up under his armpit, and he just throws him like he's the hay bale going 14
the 2 points you always want to be armpit, or if you're helping the friend out, you want to be at their hip.
Extremely flexible in his hips, too. Like, the way he digs in is sometimes when he drops his anchor with his ankle. But right there, like that's a nose tackle too. I think Keanu Benton's like 317 if I look at it.
That boy's got a thick trunk. You can see it. And gets him, he's not square. 95 starts to try to rush upfield. He's got his shoulders turned one way, he's running the other way, and Linderbaum just drives. You can see how quick his feet are to just drive right through. Able to create that movement, and that's what we want to see translate to the run game, is that ability to drive and work through, get those feet churning, drive from that ass, get the extension, lock out, and drive through. So that's what we want to translate through. It's a little bit different objective when someone is trying to play their gap, of course, but that's something you want to see. You see the urgency in it. You see the drive, his feet moving, him creating movement. And vice grip mitts. I mean,
yeah. I have that noted a few times where he gets his hands on. I have a good question here from Dan. Are there additional line calling responsibilities for center in the pros, or do they all do that in college too? I mean, this is one of those things from my perspective. It's really going to depend on which guy it is, what team it's on. I think college football is kind of interesting in the sense that you could get a guy like, take Bredesen, for example. Bredesen started on that Michigan line for I think 4 years. All 4 years that he was there, he was a starter, right? So he may be taking on more of a leadership role than other guys that, even if he takes that from the center. And I'd have to go back and look. I don't know if him or Cesar Ruiz were making the line calls, but, I wouldn't put that as an indictment on Ruiz, just given Bredesen's experience in that scheme, right? So, Spencer, do you have a take on that just before we move on?
A lot of college offenses. The Big Ten's a little bit of a different monster. I'd say the SEC as well, to the degree the ACC. But when you see those spread tempo offenses, quarterback's not calling protection at all, at all whatsoever. And then in these, I think that if you have a multi-year starter at quarterback that's 21, 22, 23, you might see some of it, but I think that's pretty rare. Ultimately, you're going to see Linderbaum pre-snap communicating. You're going to see him squat down, point, call it out, and that's something you want to watch out for, especially with a center and especially with someone who's a multi-year starter, is how active they are in communicating pre and post snap. You just want to see that leadership. You want to see that intelligence from the center position. And you mentioned that he played baseball earlier. A beautiful combination of sports to play in addition to football. Wrestling for leverage, wrestling for footwork, wrestling for flexibility. Baseball, because baseball is a sport that is all pre-snap. It is all thought. It is all situational. It is all mental before the pitch is thrown, making sure that you're on the same page with everyone, making sure that you have a game plan going in and what you're looking for. So I think that's a beautiful combination for a center.
Love it. Love it. And here we're going to get into another pass set against Benton, lined up on him as zero tech.
Head up, yep. heavy box. Goes the quick set and just fights. Look at those vice mitts all the way through the rep.
That's what I wrote. I wrote vice grips on him, and that's
We saw him go with the independent hand usage. I think he started to see him steer to his left a little bit, so he throws that jab inside and locks out with it right there.
I think this really shows how much he trusts his feet. Like he kind of doesn't panic there when he loses leverage. Right there, he loses leverage a bit, just sticks with it, keeps his inside hand.
He was on one foot at one point too, and that shows the balance that he has.
So I mean, as a pass protector, high level. Like I had very little. I don't think I had a negative pass rep on here, even dealing with power, which is something else that. This one I mark because I think they're right up on the goal line here. If I have to play it, yeah.
So he's snapping and driving. Look how tight the splits are. They're just coming right downhill.
They got them. They do this with that's Chanel right there. So they do this a lot in short yardage situations. They just take him and plot him right in one of the A gaps, and he's just going to basically act as another powerful kind of defensive tackle, even though he's a Mike stepping up.
He's ready to lean that shoulder, and you can see him loading, so that 5 can throw that shoulder.
They just shifted him over, so they got kind of both A gaps covered here. So that's kind of what I meant before we started and how they'll do this. And so that's where, okay, so now we got kind of, this is a drive block situation. He doesn't have a help from the combo block, right? He's got to, as soon as they shift him over, if they're going inside zone left, I don't know if this is, I'm pretty sure it is. He might get help from 64. 64 is going to help with the left tackle here because he's kind of set up as a 4-eye tech. And so, 64 leaves him. Maybe it's outside zone. Anyway, doesn't matter. But he has to drive that Mike linebacker by himself.
And look how high he is as opposed to the rest of the linemen. I mean, that linebacker does get right into him, but I think that was a rare leverage issue, it looked like, for him. And I don't know about feet. Maybe you want him to be a little wider off of his first step, maybe. But if he's driving, then no.
Yeah, no. See, like I think right there, that's he's got his helmet on the inside or outside shoulder where he needs to drive through, and he just loses leverage. But that's kind of an example of where I think we're going to see some of these clips where he's got to drive through his man, right? Once he creates that leverage. So it's like, boom, right here. Create leverage. My helmet's outside. Then I need to drive through that guy. He just kind of gives him the matador and gets in his gap. So, like I said, trying to pull these types of examples where he's not combo blocking. He's got to do a little bit more work, one up on him. So he's got a 0 over top of him again here. So, that's a lot better. He's getting a little bit of help from the left guard, but it's his ability to drive through.
You see the feet moving. You see the vice grips. You see the mitts. He's able to keep re-squaring and working with it. He doesn't panic when he starts to lose a little bit. You're right. He trusts his feet. He just keeps it at nice pace and that urgency with his feet, stays square and doesn't panic.
And even though he's getting some help from the left guard here, I mean, if this is a down block situation, I think he's got this fine. I mean, maybe he's not going to play him. He plays him a little bit outside because he knows he's got that left guard crashing down with him for the combo. But, no problem with the strength there on that one. Move forward to skip ahead a bit. Good. Okay. Yeah. Same deal. Uncovered throughout. He's just going to lay the wood and give some help. So I love that. I mean, he's got nothing to do here. Why not find someone to put on the ground?
And it seemed like what he thought was, how can I create the largest window for my quarterback between helping the left guard and the right guard? And I feel like he felt that the left guard situation, I think the one tack was going to go outside, so he could create that nice big window by going to crash that one.
But watch his head after the snap.
Left, right.
Right, left. Like he's just, it's constant.
Making sure there's not a late looper or something coming in left, actually, probably was what it was.
He gets help
See,
from the double here.
communicating.
The way he fires off the ball sometimes. I think that's if someone were to ask, okay, the Ravens drafted him. What gives you, he's going to have to deal with these down blocks. What's he need to do? It kind of reminds me of what Patrick McCurry did this year. Patrick McCurry's ability to time the snap and fire off the ball consistently gave him a huge leg up. Now, that for him was more in his pass sets. I'm going to beat you to my pass set and then get set. For Linderbaum, it can be I'm going to create leverage on these bigger, stronger guys. I'm going to get my step in there and get my hands on you before you can even build up any momentum. I think that's, and like he just fires off the ball here. Overtakes well. I think you'd like to see him a little bit. I think the left guard is a little sloppy in the turn there, but I think that one thing I noticed with this game is when he fires off the ball like that, it's not actually always that great of a thing in a zone scheme, because if he starts moving his guy on a combo block, he can actually turn his momentum back into yours as you're trying to turn off. That's why, obviously you don't want to, if the guy beside you is coming off late, you don't want to be coming off late too to play sloppy, but it's just one of those unique chemistry things, right? Where if he starts, because he flies off, kind of knocks him into the left guard before the left guard can get as upfield as him.
And you see him so low. He's shorter, but he still drives so low with a nice flat back and is really accentuating his pad level. So he's attacking the hip or the ribs and is able to generate movement from the center of balance of that interior lineman. And there it is, the reach god, the grim reacher, as they called Garrett Bradbury.
Absolute freak in space. Just incredible processing. Like, he's to his spot so quickly that he can, he has time to shuffle step here and just wait for his guy to come to him.
Feet are so clean. Base is so clean, making sure that he's in neutral.
Hip mobility, like his ability to start to right here. Looks like he's guarding someone in basketball. He can just kind of get low, drop those hips. There's going to be a play we see in the Indiana game here, the next one I put on. He's basically going to shuffle step like that, and he hits 3 different guys, 1, 2, 3. And it's not that he's not throwing these guys. It's just he's moving so much faster than the defense that they're on his train tracks, because that's all zone blocking is, right? You're on your train track, you're picking up who's coming to you, but he's passing guys off because he's moving so fast. So, his ability in space, his ability in outside zone, this is the kind of play that really showcases it, because what he does is truly impressive. And yeah, that's what they said about Bradbury, right? Like, just an absolute freak in space. Here we're down on the goal line.
And this is what you want to see.
Just firing off the ball.
Square. Wasn't afraid to get out over himself a little bit, but continues to drive because he has such a balanced base.
And going back to, okay, how is this going to work in a gap scheme? Key thing here is how he fires off the ball.
It's margin for error. If you're not the strongest and able to drive, then what can you accentuate? What part of your skill set can you accentuate to be there? And a guy that he kind of reminds me of in ways of that is Brian Allen off of the Rams, where he understands maybe a little bit of his limitations and he's going to accentuate. With Allen, it's kind of the craftiness, it's the quickness, it's the hand placement, the bluffing. And with Linderbaum, it's just the urgency, the feet, the leverage, staying square, and understanding. Like you said, I just want to keep coming back to trust his feet, trust himself to stay balanced and have that urgency because of it.
And he gets one in on Chanel here, which is nice, because I think Chanel gave him some problems here in the second half, but he wins here. Gets right into him and, gets him back for a couple yards. So, good play there.
We haven't seen him on the ground yet. We have not seen anything messy. I think we did see him trip once. That was towards the end of a play, but never on his butt, never anything like that. It's just consistency.
And that's the thing with Linderbaum as a player. Hell of a player. Completely understand why he's being – it's his ability to move is why he's being touted so highly. It's just, like I said, it's freakish. think this is overtake the. I think he overtakes 2i here. Does he overtake 92? No, I got the wrong player.
As you can see, I mean, the linebackers, Sanborn and Schnall for Wisconsin and Jimmy Leonard's defense are sickos. They're complete head cases. This guy, Shaw's just shooting this gap here like a madman, like a zombie.
I think this is the second half, and this is where what I was talking about, where they kind of line him up in the A gap and just ask him to create havoc. I actually like Chanel. This game turned me on to Chanel.
For sure. Ravens mug a lot.
Yeah.
And they just have
kind of that throwback.
At this point, Wisconsin completely has no respect for Iowa's ability to throw the ball.
This is the one. Overtakes the 2i here. I guess he's not.
Hope block.
I want this pre-snap. This is driving me crazy. There. So he's lined up as a, 2-tech, 2i, whatever you want to call it. He's going to overtake 92's outside shoulder here. Insane athletic ability. Like, that's just... I just can't get over how well he moves, especially out of the snap. Like, it's insane.
His ability to flip the hips is what makes him special.
Also a baseball thing. Low, I don't know what position he played. See there, mugging the A gap again. And same thing as we saw on that previous one that we looked at. So, it's Chanel again, lined up in the A gap. I think this is inside zone left.
He's cheating, he's completely angled towards Linderbaum.
And this is what I mean when they tried to make that adjustment, I think. And we're going to see this a few more times there. He's just going to stand in the other gap. So they got the 1-tech here, right side A gap for the offense. Okay, I'm going to go stand in that. So you're not going to combo now, because if this is inside zone left guard has to go 92, right guard has to go. The 1-tech is Linderbaum, one up on Chanel. And so this is where, against a Mike, I would expect him to get a little bit better of a drive block than this. And again, can't get the leverage. He can't drive through his body. And Chanel basically just throws his upper body. So I think this is where, when we're looking at his ability, or not his ability, when we look at what he's going to be asked in a Ravens offense to down block and clear guys off the line, he's going to be dealing with these one-on-one face-up looks all the time. It's not always going to be a Mike. Sometimes it's going to be just, straight up, Larry Ogunjobi and, some of the big boys that come through the AFC North in those A gaps.
It is a little dip. I mean, I don't know if they're going to see this exactly, though, because they just completely have no respect for Iowa's ability to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And, a couple boots here and there eradicate this to a degree, and some ability to get into a set there. He's going to be able to anchor against that linebacker and handle him. But we're going to see Chenal just keep cheating, angling, being able to win that way and create a little knife there.
This one's on.
I mean, you almost just if they could pin and pull here, I feel like that would answer it even so well, to have a down block on the linebacker, and that's the thing that I'm curious about Linderbaum, is him being the pin and pull pulling center is, I think, how you can accentuate him in the Raven system, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and this is 4th and 1, so this is why they're mugging on this one. Is that a fullback dive?
Yep.
Same idea. Struggling with Chanel again. Something that I think he struggled with Chanel more than Benton in this game.
Yeah, the explosiveness. I mean, he's in there as close as he can be. He's angled. He's ready for it, and he's just throwing that shoulder and then able to re-square. So
I wonder if he saw the shift late. That's what I was wondering. I wrote that down because he shifts from 0 to the 1 right before the snap. So I don't know if he missed it, because if he has him head up, that would be his man on this one. And He's just kind of holding on for dear life there with his right. But and I think we get a good look at a good finish here on this next one. And then give the dirt. Wondered if he got pissed off on this play after a couple of those rough ones. I think they're losing by quite a bit at this point in the game. So he's gonna throw him, give him the dirt, and
And then he's gonna go bam.
So I like that. I like that. Give me
He's a
guy
wrestler, man. He's like, I gotta get the 3 count here.
because that was one thing. I mean, I don't know if it's a product of playing more zone where it's more that finesse game. I didn't notice. Got to be clear how I say this. I didn't notice that he doesn't finish. I didn't notice a lot of those kind of. But I'm also coming off of watching Ikem Aquano, who wants to hurt anybody and everybody that gets in his way. So, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that Linderbaum doesn't finish, but that was one that just stood out to me because I was like, "Where's that been?" Because he just, he wanted to give that guy the dirt there. So they're just crowding the interior again. Good processing. Picks up the loop. Unreal pass blocker. Like, just so smooth, so
Can't outquick
steady.
him. And we haven't seen him have any issue with power as a pass blocker either in his sets at all. We've
No,
seen
and
some
even
sets,
picking
we've
up a
seen him
blitzing
help.
linebacker, picking up a looper where they kind of have some momentum and he's absorbing them through his lower body, dropping that anchor. Not an issue at all. Creates leverage. Again, he's aiming, trying to get under that armpit. Very, very good pass protector.
And that's what that's what you're really excited about. You're excited about the skill in space. You're excited about him as a pass protector overall. And then in the screen game, you can do things like this. And that's something the Ravens have really lacked is those guys that can get out in the screen game and connect. And Skura kind of had the movement skill for it, but whiffed a lot. Felt like he, was a little too passive at times. And I think you're excited about that.
There we go.
Nice flat back, drives through all the way through the whistle. Nice little push.
So they bring in. I think Wisconsin's got their second unit in here now, but I like that because showing a dry block, got to give the guy some love when he does it.
Exactly.
So that kind of wraps up the Wisconsin game. So I will jump right into throw that out, get into the Indiana game. This file, whoever clipped this one up, is my best friend because it's only the end zone angle, so it's half a video, and it's all I really care about watching. So we're gonna start here, 12-minute mark or 12-second mark. So again, good processing it on zone. He's gonna bang him and then get right into the linebacker.
Almost like a running back. What's my next move going to be? He's thinking about the next before the first hits, but it's not like he gets ahead of himself. And it's just you can tell the practice reps that have gone into it and the intensity that he probably puts into those practice reps because the hand placement without needing his eyes at all is so consistent when he's on those combos.
And he drives him there. Good drive there. This one I just wrote vice grips, so we're gonna like this one, I think. Yeah, that's just 94 ain't going nowhere. Like I said, clean, steady pass protector. Just unreal hand leverage there. And you can really see his ability here to kind of maintain his block, drop his anchor. 94 is trying. He's trying to drive, and he can't push through his anchor.
It's all in the hips.
It's all in the hips. Really good overtake here on outside zone. This one goes for Tutty. His ability in outside zone is insane. Like he ends up on the place.
You see him kind of re-square himself too, and get parallel with the line of scrimmage, so that he can drive a little bit at the end. He's moving on that 45-degree angle. You see him re-square there and use that outside foot to generate that push.
Such a fluid
outside foot.
So here he's head up on a zero tech. Liked his ability there. I mean, he gets help from the left guard, but good initial pop. Right under.
Inside hands. Keeps the feet moving. And it feels like he knows he's in tight quarters, so he kind of reduced his split a little bit as he was working through.
You can actually see here, I think he brings that via his outside hand. his right hand is gonna if four's coming to him right here. He was
Yep,
dropping
he's
his
ready
finger
for
to get
4.
ready for the so
That's the screenshot. That's the screenshot.
that's processing on the move. His ability to process on zone is just
That's
like
like
I
some
said,
Clint Eastwood.
otherworldly.
That's like an old Western film where he's ready for the 8th guy in the fight when it's him and his buddy backed up against the wall. He's got that hand ready to draw the pistol while he's in a fist fight if he needs to.
And there's vice grips again. You know, it is one of those things. Like his my concerns about him drive blocking, his some of his kind of accolades as a weightlifter, as a hay bale tosser. Not that that's necessarily a
As a
great
farm
metric.
boy.
You know, you can see the strength. Like you can see the strength in it, the way he drops his anchor. But you don't quite see it all the time as a run blocker, and that's where when I'm trying to evaluate a player, it's like, how do I square those two kind of competing opinions, right? That's where I can find it so difficult sometimes because I don't want to sit here and be like, he doesn't have good functional strength. Well, I mean, he's got a really stout anchor. We've seen him have some plays with some good functional strength, but he's not consistently showing a high level functional strength as a run blocker in drive block situations. That's kind of where sometimes when you're reading scouting reports and whatnot, it kind of some of the nuance gets lost in trying to write a summary, right? So that's always something I find hard with these situations because his anchor is very strong. 94 is a big boy. I think he's
Looks athletic too. He doesn't look like he's
He's only
bad
290, but
BMI.
he's 6'2". So I mean, he's got a wide butt on him. So low center of gravity.
Yeah, that was a big boy rep right there. Got
Yeah.
kind of lost in the wash a little bit, but that's a big boy rep from both of them. It looked like he's communicating there. You see a call.
Creates a leverage well.
You see his hand in the armpit, hand in the shoulder, hand in the armpit. Consistency with the hand placement is very nice.
Just would like to see him right at this point be able to plant that left foot. That's kind of like his ability to kind of shuffle step rather than have to run through these guys. As soon as he sets, I'd like him. He's still got leverage there. He's still got his helmet on the right side, but then he loses it there. So that's kind of where I kind of see that lack of functional strength as a run blocker because he's not able to get that push through that shoulder. Creates the leverage really well, but he's not able to kind of get that push through that seals it. And so that's kind of this is a good rep to kind of show
that
what
lift
I mean.
out.
Like his hands are in the exact right spot right here. He's got them lifted. It's now I need to drive through this guy's play size shoulder. And he kind of loses them back inside. So it's kind of that ability to take that leverage and turn it into a drive block situation, I think is where I've noticed that a few times.
And it's only going to get harder at the next level.
And that's it, right? I mean, we're going from...
It's going to be Michael Pierce and Ndamukong Suh and Reeder on the Bengals and Hayward and those kind of guys.
Okay, I think we got 2 plays in a row here that so you took a look at his number of down block opportunities and you had 11 on the year?
Something like that, man.
So something low. So low number of gap blocks, which makes sense. I mean, I don't think we've seen one yet tonight. They're all zone concepts. And the only time he's not combo blocking, it's still a zone play, but each guy's covered, so they just have to drive one-on-one. Right here, 15's a running back, so they're in a wildcat offense here. And they're going to run what I would call power reader inverted veer, but it's a gap concept. So it's probably one of those 11 or handful, 12, 13 plays where it's going to be you're going to see a puller.
You can kind of tell because how wide the splits are from the entire front. The offensive line, they're a little wider than they usually are, especially on that left side too. It's really spread out that they're probably going to want to move laterally, have room for down blocks without running into each other, have nice wide steps.
And so see pulling guard from the left here. This is going to be the fake inverted veer, and he keeps it. But this is a great opportunity because it's one of the very, very, very rare. And we're talking, how many snaps would he have played this year? Like
900, probably 800.
and 11 of them were gap runs. So, I mean, this is why
That's what I'm talking about, that pin and pull, the quickness he can use there, and then using him as a pulling center, which is something that I thought we might see with Bozeman a little bit. We haven't seen, and something we don't see a ton in general.
yeah.
Not always, but being able to use that, get him out in space. So the quickness that he gets on him here, because that 2-eye is reading that guard. He sees that guard pull, and he has to process that. That takes the time it takes from a fastball to get to home plate, that just split second. And in that time, Linderbaum is square up, hand placement, locked out, and square in front of him in the way.
So he's got a little bit of a cheat on that right hand. I wouldn't say it's a hold. It's only a hold if it's called. But you can see, I guess what I took away here is he doesn't get a lot of movement on his guy on the down block, right? He's not really moving him anywhere on this one. And so 50 can't get off the block. But, it stands out to me just, this is typical power, right? Your line from Linderbaum over to the left side is going to down block to the right, pulling guard left. Quarterback's going to read man's right here. So,
and I want to go back and watch. I want to see why he's not. I want to try to say why he's not generating movement there. So we see that first step. He's good. His hands are good. He's on the outside a little bit.
He's driving his legs. He's just not moving them. That's what I'm saying, man.
Now he's up high. He's locked out up high. He's not
able
to stay low.
It's a functional block, right? But it's
so I guess we want to see him stay a little lower and not kind of drive through the hips so early because he gets too high with it. I mean,
tough one. So let's see.
Right here, he's good. He's good. This is where it's 50-50. He had the advantage in terms of quickness. He got on him quickly. The lineman is back, has not, advanced from where he was in his stance. So he won the initial 2 steps into there. The hand isn't inside. So it looks like, the 2 tech got his left arm into the, he's winning inside there. Linderbaum looks like he's got his left arm inside. So they're kind of stalemate all the way through with hand placement there. So from here, what do you want to see him lift up and drive through and then move the feet and the feet move a little bit.
I think on this one,
he doesn't have that 45-degree angle at all. He's up so high. It's like he's pass blocking and anchoring more so than he is driving.
Well, what I see here is him driving.
And then he resets into it, and then we get a hold.
Yeah. I don't know if it got called. I never saw a flag come in. I didn't see it on
I mean, whatever. It was a quick little tug. Call it or don't, I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, but I think what I'm seeing in this, what concerns me is when I see a guy locked in here, great leverage, great creation of leverage, and then I see his feet driving, but his guy's not going anywhere. And so I think this could be technique based. I think he actually got 2 inside of him where he's almost perpendicular to him. You want your down blocks to be a slant. Do you want your down blocks to be quite like this? Let's get a freeze frame on when he starts to drive. So see, he's perpendicular to the line of scrimmage, right?
Right.
And so you want to you want to slant, you want to create a crease. Do you want him to be that inside? That's it.
He has a half man and not a full man to be able to drive through.
And so this is what we talked about. Is he struggling on this play because he doesn't have the right number of functional strength, or is it inexperience doing something like a down block where he's only doing it 11 out of 900 plays on a year, and that means he can't build upon it? And so I think that's kind of where there needs to be a little bit of nuance about him as a prospect and how he projects into the Ravens scheme. Before we jump into the next one, just want to go to my guy, Mike Crawford. Sounds like he could be effective in a wide zone scheme where he's asked to displace defenders more laterally than vertically. Completely agree, Mike. His ability to move laterally, his ability to beat guys to his, zone blocking is all about blocking space. His ability to beat guys to that space and be strong enough to win through blocks there. He's
ready. He's ready for that now. That's plug and go. But it's interesting because that's what they said about Bradbury in that scheme, and it has not been the case because, again, the functional strength isn't there. So I know guys like you mentioned, Brandon Thorne, are calling him stronger Bradbury. I think he might be. I mean, we'll see. Bradbury tested well. I don't know. It feels like they're both explosive athletes. They're both similar size. I would even say Bradbury might be probably about exact similar size, actually. I know Bradbury was a tight end convert. He's a defensive line convert. And I think you can see some of that explosiveness out of the stance, like a defensive lineman at times, the quickness. But
Fluid,
yeah, like Mike said, spot
player.
on. He's ready for that zone scheme now. We have that projection there for what he's going to be able to do in that man scheme.
And so here we're again in the Wildcat. This is actually it's either back to back or 2 plays after, but they're back in the Wildcat. And so again, we're going to see another. This is going to be power right, and so he's down blocking to his left on this one. Again, he's a little kind of too, but he also doesn't get any movement.
I think he got the job done there.
Well, I mean, he makes his block, right? But he tried to spin off of him. But that's where, if my guy's going to go inside on that play, that's probably fine. But it's probably the spin is why he's not getting any drive. He basically just loses where his sled is, right? If a guy's going to spin.
And the guy lost because that was a loss.
Yeah. This is a 1 block. It's a functional block. All good there. No concerns. But just
split back YY.
I think it's just another note on the technique. I'm not sure I want my guy going that perpendicular to the line of scrimmage because he's almost like a T.
You want him more vertical.
See, I'll pause it again. Right there. So he's trying to work
more lateral, pardon me.
Yeah. So again,
because as a defensive lineman, you only ever want to give a blocker a half of a man. Because if you give him your chest, if you give him that full man, that's where they can move you. And you can't anchor, you can't hold your gap if you're getting full on. So yeah, that missing point there, like you said, you want him in the chest, you want him more square to the man than to the side.
So here we have a comment. He's got a good anchor, but where I see him struggle with power is versus length. When guys can get into him, he sometimes struggles to drop that anchor. Could be more independent with his hands. See, I don't know, because I find I find he out leverages guys, so I haven't really noticed length as an issue for him, and we talk about that a lot about when guys struggle with length. I don't know what he'll measure in as.
It feels like he's got that urgency to him, especially in a quick set, and the consistency of the hand placement. He's getting those armpits, and he's got the grip strength, he's got the feet, he's got the hips in it, that ability to anchor a little bit. But I would like to see him against maybe like Michigan. I don't know whoever has a little bit longer pass rusher. We're seeing him against these bulky guys, but
yeah,
not a ton of these nose guards or Jordan Davis maybe. I mean, that would be a hell of a fight to see. That would be Godzilla versus King Kong in terms of different skill sets there. So it'd be interesting to see.
But I do like this comment because we've seen him basically win consistently in the pass game. We've seen him basically win consistently through creating leverage, right? So of course, when he starts playing against guys with length, it's going to be a little bit harder. That margin for error that he might have had gets a little bit lower. So it's important. It's definitely the guys that he's facing aren't necessarily longer limbed athletes. So it's a good comment. Very good comment.
We've seen a lot of stubby types.
Yeah. Which is kind of purposeful because I was really trying to highlight him against, we'll call the stubbies, the Cole Jacksons out there.
The squatty potties.
So here he comes off of the combo and actually gets pretty jacked up. That's just 4. He just anticipates him coming off on the block. I wouldn't really. I mean, this is a highlight for number 4 that he's going to put on the And One mixtape, but he's just reading him coming off the block, right? I wouldn't see. That's one where even though he gets hit, he ends up on the ground. It's the first time we've seen him on the ground tonight where he didn't get rolled up on. So that's number 1. I wouldn't really use that as an indictment on his play or his functional strength. I think that's just 4 making a play on coming off the combo block.
For sure. I mean, he saw that. He read his triangle and played right through it.
Exactly.
immediately.
And
There was no hesitation to fill there. So I think that's spot on.
we get to see him here again in space on a. He's going to release on a draw.
It's
QB
an
draw.
over front.
Just great in space. Goes for
He
a touchdown.
connects so often in space. And it's not just holding a guy up. A lot of the time, it's really getting into a guy and showing off that movement skill. Which
he drives him here. Like I mean, so these are hard blocks to hit, right? You're anticipating where a guy's going in space. He gets right into him, hands on, drives through, rather than just popping him. He drives right here. So even though
he's
he
got
kind
the
of
feet and
loses
the hips to be
leverage,
able to
right?
stick with those kinds of athletes, he doesn't look out of place approaching a quicker, smaller athlete in space.
Can't ask
He's
for
not
much more.
lunging. He's not, over his skis. He's not too tentative. He's just got that nice urgency to him and balance.
422. Yeah, just picking up loopers again, right? Like it's just like you said earlier, just model of consistency as a pass blocker. It's uncovered. He's looking. He actually looks right there. Comes back around. Still sees the looper. Picks him up. No problem. He does this.
It's always the most dangerous person too. It's always the most dangerous possible, bad situation if he doesn't help.
Yeah. So I think this shows a good, nice explosion.
I see him on his face a little bit, but there was some trash there.
And he's one on one with a bigger stubby, and he ends up getting a little help there. But that initial pop and drive that he has here, right off look how quick he is off the snap. He's the one snapping the ball, and he's still getting his first
back
step.
is still.
Boom.
And that's that good 45-degree angle as he's lifting.
Even if 73 doesn't help him there, he's not going to have an issue drive blocking there. So that's one of those plays where it's, again, you got to kind of square some of the concerns with some of the highlights that you're seeing. Look good. Maybe he can do that consistently. Maybe he plays a little bit better technique.
I think you really nailed it. I think it's getting into the center of the man, into that chest plate more consistently. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's freakish. Like it really is.
And it's the mobility in the hips to just keep re-squaring.
He hits 3 guys. One, 2, 3. And he
no
wins.
No scrapers 2022.
He wins play side shoulder on all 3 of them. Like it's just his ability to move is basketball-like, which is not something you see. I mean, he may as well be the opposite of Ben Cleveland as in terms of what hip mobility looks like. I think he's going to get a true pass set here. Again, anchor, nowhere, vice grips. He looked angry there trying to get off of his chest. But to Rossi Hunter's point, this is a good example. I mean, these look like what we were talking about: shorter, stubbier guys, maybe not as long of athletes. So when he's winning chess like this, is he going to struggle a little bit more against length? It becomes, like we always talk about with length, it becomes kind of that your margin for error. So that's always going to be reduced. Nice block there. Really nice block on the DP. But again, ability to kind of process in space, ability to move up. He just keeps moving on this one, which is nice. He actually goes outside of his zone. He ends up on the right side of the right guard or the right tackle. But he's just staying on his track looking for work. And he
doesn't. There's no panic or confusion when things kind of got out of sorts.
No, he just kind of moves. Like he just goes. He just goes so consistently. And this is the last one I got marked. Again, space block. Winning that play side shoulder consistently. Lays a little bit of wood there. Uses a bit of a shoulder here, but not an issue. Clears it out. At 58 moves into him. That's
made sure that he could seal that off. Feet maybe a little bit discombobulated, but he did it to get the job done. Made sure that guy was going to have to go through him.
And this is Rossi Hunter makes up a great point here. In space, he legitimately moves like a skill position guy. Reminds me of Jason Kelsey in that way. And I think that's kind of like the other player comparison I keep seeing. It's, I see Bradbury, stronger Bradbury. I also see Jason Kelsey. And I think that's kind of I think I missed a few comments. We got, would an O line ever want to maintain position rather than drive the defender? Could he be chopping his feet to maintain ability to react? I think that's going back to that first drive block that we saw in Wildcat there from Dan. Dan, sorry I missed that, buddy. It's a good point. I mean, on some of those drive block opportunities, if you sealed the shoulder, um, you made like it doesn't really necessarily matter as long as you maintain your anchor. I don't think you need to push guys 6 yards off the line in a down block situation. As long as you win the shoulder, I think would he be chopping his feet to maintain ability to react? If he was kind of straight up sitting down a little bit more, like you'll see in some of his pass pro reps, I would say yes. But the reason that play specifically is he was still leaning forward, chopping his feet down as if he was trying to move them. That's why I highlighted it as kind of a functional strength clip. Just going back, if you guys have questions, we're going to kind of wrap this up with a little bit of a discussion. So drop your questions. Just going back through some of the comments. What's more powerful, Linderbaum or this beard duo? That's a good one. Like I said, I bring the salt and pepper. Spencer brings a little bit of the younger
I've got like
beard.
5 other colors in here. We've got some red, some blonde, some blue, some green. Who knows?
That's what happened to me, man. The whites used to be reds and they turned white as I got older. How do you feel about Ravens looking for best player available at 14 rather than looking for a certain position? Spencer, you want to start off with this one?
I feel like the Ravens do a nice job and say a nice job in the sense that they kind of stick to it. I think they use free agency to fill needs. And when you've got a need, you want to vet. And that way you're not taking a rookie and let's say a Linderbaum, as this example and thrusting him into this role where he's got to be this man gap guy immediately from day one, or else you might be losing games. So that kind of allows them to draft with both hands instead of one tied behind their back. So, they go get Zeitler. They know they had Villanueva in the wings, which didn't work out great. We saw some promising things early on in the run game from Villanueva, and those went away and just got worse and worse. But they want to be able to draft open-handed and not have to pass on guys because of need. And I think that's kind of desperate. And it's kind of goes to their entire organizational philosophy of like attacking wins rather than fearing losing. Like, oh, we need to draft this in the first round. But same time, I mean, it felt like Queen was a pick of need. They were like, we're going to get a linebacker. This is the one that fell. And I was very high on Queen, has definitely not played up to what I thought he would be at this point. Still very young, but, you have to get offensive linemen in this draft. It feels like you can't continue the patchwork. You need someone that can develop through, that you can have, that's relatively cheap, that you think you're going to be able to grow with Lamar and continue to be successful in your organization. So, I mean, this is the draft for it. We're talking Linderbaum. You've already talked Ike Ekwonu. I've been looking at Falele. We're looking at Charles Cross. We're looking at Kennard. We're looking at all these different guys. Penning, all these different guys. So I think they absolutely do want BPA, especially in the first round. But free agency doesn't go the way they want, then it might be a different story. And, I know that they've openly said if there's a tie that it goes to the need.
And I think – Stanley's health situation is going to be fluid. The information they have on Stanley's ankle could be different in April than it was in March. So maybe things are looking good in March. Maybe something happens that makes them a little bit more needy on the offensive tackle situation or offensive line in general, right? So for me, there's 100% examples of them in the past of kind of reaching for need or kind of building the draft around need. I think Hayden Hurst was a good example. I think you mentioned Queen is a good example. But typically, I would say they're normally sticking to BPA with need factored into there, of course. But I think you kind of build your board around your need as well. So I think that kind of factors into the BPA, kind of formula without any extra consideration. So, that's how I see that. CJ Cush, re-signed Bozeman gang. I mean, Spencer and I have talked about Bozeman's contract about 450 times, as I have with Dan Reese.
We've been going on for a year, well over a year, I want to say.
And here's the thing with Bozeman, I think that's why people are looking at Linderbaum, right? Bozeman might walk, Bozeman might get paid elsewhere. That leaves a huge gap. I know a lot of people have talked about Cologne. It's not necessary. I don't really have anything against Cologne. I think he's played admirably in spot starts, and that needs to be considered. I just don't see it. It reminds me so much of Skura. I just don't see a high level athlete. I think he's going to have to really spend that time that Skura spent in 2018 trying to figure out, what do I need to do as a player to kind of cover up my lack of athleticism. And to Skura's credit, in 2019 he did that. I think if Skur doesn't blow out his knee in 2019, not only do I think the 2019 playoff game is a lot different because Skur was playing at a high level, McCary didn't really handle the heat inside when they were really pressuring that inside A gap with Casey and Simmons and DeQuan Jones and all those big cats on that Tennessee line. But I think he could still very well be around here right now, right? Like they developed him. So I guess what worries me with Cologne is we go into another situation where I'm trying to develop a lower athletic profile, the UDFA. So, I'm all for re-signing Bose, as always, and as Eric DeCosta is going to do it. He's going to set a price, and if Bozeman thinks he's worth more, he's going to tell him to go out on the market and see if he's right. So that's the only thing I got there. I'm all for signing Bose, but I'm not sure I'm going to overpay him.
It's tough. It's tough. Cologne. What is to me? I mean, I don't know what Cologne's strength is overall. Like we're talking through it. Being able to reach, being able to drive, pass pro, independent hand usage, anchor. What is Cologne's strength right now as a player? I maybe that he doesn't have maybe a glaring terrible aspect of his game, but also it's just you're not seeing anything that's dazzling.
Like you can see it if you want to look at snaps where he kind of highlights his athletic deficiencies. I think it really shows when he came in as a 6 offensive lineman, and he just had to work against quicker, speedier guys. He's not a very long player, so he kind of struggled out in space a little bit. If he was down blocking, even just on like on a QB power where he's just got to kind of down block on the edge in the tight end spot. I think that's one example to look for. I think he was steady. Like you said, I don't think. There's never a time where I was like, "Oh, Cologne, what are you doing?"
It's not get this guy off the field, but how many years? If you lose Bozeman, he comes in, and there's just a guy that gets picked on, and year over year, there's someone who's getting picked on. 2018, it was whoever was playing left guard, Hurst or Bozeman or whoever was there. 2019, you're spot on. McCary comes in. They didn't have a real weakness. You got a Hall of Famer next to you. That helps. You're in an okay spot. Bozeman's okay. Stanley's really good. Brown's really good. And, then playoff time, boom, Titans in your face. 2020, it's the right guard, right tackle. It's the entire right side of the line. Once Stanley goes down. 2021, it's the left tackle. It's the right tackle when McCary's not in there. And, left guard's not great either. So it's just continuing to be able to have that glaring weakness up front and moving on from Bozeman. You've got to find an immediate answer. And I feel like, it's going to have to be maybe a cut or a minor trade or something because you're taking one step forward if you draft a tackle, and then you're taking 2 steps back at center.
And I think the other thing that I've noticed as you list through those years is it wasn't always just one guy beside another guy or it wasn't one guy in a vacuum. It was always 2 guys. 2018, it was kind of Skur at center, James Hurst at left guard, Melvin Ingram ate their lunch for 4 quarters and made me want to cry under my bed. 2019, it was Bozeman at left guard and McCary at center. 2020 was the whole right side. You nailed that. And then this year it was, left tackle, left guard, was kind of a mess all year. So if we go into next year, if Ben Cleveland isn't able to take those steps that we all want, if they add the offensive tackle depth and Phillips gets in there, but either can't stay healthy like we've seen. I think people forget Tyree Phillips was a week 1 starter in the last 2 seasons as a guard. This team likes Tyree Phillips. I think he'll probably have if they build up their tackle depth, he's probably going to have first dibs at that left guard position in camp. Cleveland's going to battle with him, but I think he's actually going to have first dibs at it. And then if we have Cologne in there and Cleveland doesn't really show that progress we want to see, is it just going to be similar to 2018 where they attack that left side A gap? I'm just going to put my big boy in there. I mean, I don't know, right? But that's kind of where I think they always say with the offensive line, you're always worried about your weakest link but at a certain point you can scheme to help out a weak link. If you have one guy that's struggling, you can use slide protections, you can do all these types of things. But as we've seen, it can be really tough to help
two guys that are side by side together on the offensive line. One building philosophy that I was talking through with Dan, look at the Buffalo Bills. They had a high performer in Deion Dawkins. They had Darrell Williams at right tackle, and they had Mitch Morse at center. And then they had below average guards. And they've been trying to sort out their left guard and right guard for like 2 years now. They've gone through Boottinger, Cody Ford. But what's the difference in that and the Ravens line is you have one guy beside the weak link to help them out on both sides. So, I was talking with someone, what's the optimal team building for an offensive line? And I actually think it's tackle, center, tackle as kind of your best three. You're never going to have five guys that are, well, I mean,
you're staggering the weakness.
Exactly. And you might have a line like the Saints where, the Saints at full health where those five are just absolute monsters. But typically you're not going to be dealing with that situation. So, that's my thing with Cologne. I guess all I'll say is I'm not necessarily against Cologne. I just hope they bring in, a mid-round Brock Hoffman type guy to give him a little bit of
Donovan West out of Arizona State is someone who's gotten a lot of buzz too. So, but I want to let's wrap it up in this sense. Bozeman gone, hits free agency. Let's say that happens. That's a scenario that pans out. Gone in free agency. Let's say we're probably higher on Cross, Aquanu, Evan Neal. We'll get into Penning and some of the other guys, whatever. But those three are gone. They're sitting at 14. You don't have Bozeman. How confident are you in Linderbaum from what you've seen to become a day one starter or an early rookie starter and come in and be not a weak link?
First
you
of all,
you don't draft him just for what he does day one, but
yeah. No, I think he's going to come in and immediately improve your pass protection, like we've seen. I think he's going to be from a day one starting perspective. I think he's going to be a very high level pass protector. I just can't recall very many times where he lost a pass protection rep. And I've
SIS had him with 4 blown blocks in pass pro out of I think like 475. It was one of the lower rates. Run block was different. I think he was like towards the middle of the pack. He had like 9 or 10 that he blew there. So, but yeah, high level pass pro.
High level pass pro. So he's going to immediately step in there and improve your pass protection. Well, maybe not improve. I think Bozeman was a good pass protector, but I mean, probably relative to Cologne, he's going to come in and be a high level pass protector. I'm going to be concerned about how much I can transition and build on his game just for being a lighter guy, shorter, lighter guy. In those
room for growth, you're kind of worried about.
It's that so when we're looking at that difference between what I just saw him do and what can I project him to do, I saw him be an absolute monster in space. So at the time the Ravens do run outside zone, and maybe it's something they can do a little bit more.
Something they mentioned that they did want to do, I think that fits their backs that they want to have healthy as well. Dobbins, Edwards have shown some real promise in zone.
Yeah, that's an area Edwards has really progressed in as a football player. His ability to kind of read and react in zone has improved greatly. But also keep in mind they run duos, which is combo block situation. So I think he fits that concept. It's really veer read, inverted veer, power read. He'd get the time to pull on. I mean, it depends on the pre-snap read. But when they run the counter bash, center can pull if that's the read for what determines who pulls. So there's opportunities to get him in space. It's, the question that you need to answer on the Ravens fit is, can he hold up on running 15 to 20 powers a game? Because center's down blocking in every single power situation. He's never going to be the puller. Well, I mean, I guess technically you could, but not in this scheme.
So you're going to have to try to hide that in power. You're going to have him down block away from play side, so that you're hoping that there's if you've got one of those stubby boys that's playing 0 or 1, they're not someone that's going to be able to run the play down. And when you're playing one of them, it's probably going to be an issue. We're going to see the mugging, but like you said, so then, I think there's a greater question, and I think a lot of people would have. Me and you love the run game. I feel like if you're a real student of the game, you tend to have an admiration for the chess aspect and the technical refinement of the run game. But then there's the broader conversations from the math standpoint, because I'm not using the A word anymore, of wanting to throw the ball more. You want Lamar Jackson to throw the ball more, and you're really happy with what he is in pass protection. And maybe, because of that, like you mentioned, you can scheme some things in the run game, but there is going to be that weakness early on. And like you said, I think spot on. I don't know that there's a ton of room for growth in his frame, I think you nailed it with in those drive blocks, being able to hit the, get that inside, be square stepping. Where's your knee going to be aimed? You want it to be aimed, kind of through his nut, so to speak. You want it to go through that center point, that midline, hands inside and drive that way. But then again, the functional strength, is that going to get there? Is that going to be there? Is there enough in what you see in pass protection to turn him into someone that can move guys? I don't think so, to be honest. If I had to guess, if you're putting a wall through to my head and saying pick one, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that's not who he is as a player. I think maybe he does have better mitts, vice strength than Bradbury. I think that he might be a little smarter than Bradbury, but I don't think he's ever going to become that guy, if I had to say. So that limits things for me a little bit, but pass pro, that's probably the biggest concern overall. In Roman's scheme, it feels like, it's going to be a plus that they can hide him, that they can ask him to do some things, pin and pull, and run away from him and not use that. They've never really used their center as that kind of bully. They're not running off of the center a lot, or if they are, it's a heavy down block from a guard that's going into it.
And that's what I wanted to say is, I mean, the counter argument to the can he hold up on 15, 20 reps of power, your center down block is probably the furthest away from your where that gap is. So that's the argument against what I'm saying. I'll argue my own point to show some fluidity.
Devil's advocate, of course.
Exactly. So
so how much does it hurt you?
Exactly.
If you don't have someone who can drive off
That's
the ball.
the argument, I think. I'm talking about, I mean, it does matter a little bit more because, and I mean, the veer is a little bit different because you do need your center to hold up on a one-on-one block.
Right.
Because obviously, if you lose up the middle on a veer,
it's just going to shrink things.
Exactly.
Overall, it's going to tighten. It's going to be less of a window to run through and things like that.
But on the power specific plays, it's like, well, you're talking about his ability to drive block on power on a down block. Is that really why you wouldn't draft a guy? Probably not a good argument, but it absolutely plays into scheme fit. So, I mean, I don't think you could look me in the eyes and say the Ravens are the best scheme fit for a guy like Linderbaum. No, obviously not. I mean, he's his best fit in a wide stretch zone. You named them earlier. Get him on the Packers. Get him on the Browns,
the Rams, the Titans, the Vikings, the Browns.
Exactly. Like these teams that are going to run 20
Bengals.
Yeah. He's going to be a great fit there. He could still come to the Ravens and be a heck of a player, improve their pass protection, give them steady reps. We just watched him snap. Snaps looked really clean. Super important thing. But he's just not, this isn't his best scheme fit. So that's really where I stand on Linderbaum as a player. As a player in a vacuum, as a prospect, very high level player. I don't know if I'd have him in my top 10. I think that's a little much.
So that's my next question for you. Among the centers that you've studied in the last couple of years, we've seen Creed, we've seen Ruiz, we've seen Creed Humphrey, Cesar Ruiz, we've seen Bradbury, we've seen Eric McCoy. Who else have we seen? The Cushenberry, I guess. He wasn't really regarded that high. He was just on a really good team. I don't know who else was regarded really highly, but McCoy, among centers, where
McCoy? Eric McCoy.
Eric McCoy, Texas A&M. Maybe you didn't get into him because they had Skura. Maybe you were fine with Skura.
I see. Creed really screws things up. My issue with Creed was just that he kind of, what we were talking, there was no hole in Creed's game. There was nothing you could really look at in a vacuum and be like, I don't think Creed can do that, or he's not doing that consistently. The only thing
the knock on him was that he quote unquote operated in a phone booth. But to me, I mean, the Ravens center does operate in a phone booth most of the time.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you look at his zone reps, I mean, I never really, that's what I mean. I never really there was no area where I was like, I don't think he could really do that at the next level. I think what makes Linderbaum such a highly regarded player is what I mentioned earlier, that his ability to move is freakish, and it really gives him that kind of next level ability as a player. To become an elite player, someone that has that athletic. It's like any position. That's how you get the physical freaks, right? He's just going to be, if he gets out in wide zone 15 to 20, he's just faster than other guys. He's going to be consistently making those blocks.
And he's mentally faster. The processing is quicker than the defenders are.
Very
And
good
there's a
pass
certainty
blocker.
about his game. There's a confidence there. So where I think the space helps is on big plays, making a 15-yard gain into a 40-yard gain, sealing up something away or downfield, or like we see that QB draw, turning that into a touchdown, making sure that's a touchdown down there. So I think that helps in the explosive factor. And, I love the Jason Kelsey comparison a lot of people have. And I just feel like that's a very, it's that Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Jason Kelsey. They're guys that don't happen very often with their size, their skill set. They do rare things, and I just think that the easiest way to disappoint yourself is to expect someone to do something magical that has only been done, by a couple players here and there, and then get disappointed when you don't get that magic. And that's why I see maybe a little Brian Allen in his game a little bit, and figuring out how to get more crafty, how to snatch guys down when you need to, and how to add that to your repertoire a little bit more so. So the space stuff, yeah, overall for me, it's really high to take a center 14 there to me that I think does have a glaring hole in their game right now. And to me at 14, especially for the Ravens organization, that's picking really high. You want someone that can come make an impact pretty early.
It's like Stanley, right? They couldn't miss on that pick. Stanley had
that's a lot higher. That's super high.
Six versus 14. I mean, I'm used to picking.
Humphrey's the closest, and Humphrey didn't have too much on his plate in year one, but I think there could have been more, and it would have been all right. But as an offensive lineman, it's kind of like you're not getting subbed in. Well, the Ravens are one of the teams that do like to sub players in and out. On the offensive line, but at center, you're not subbing the center in and out. It's either you're getting the full plate, your dinner plate's loaded, or it's not. You're either starting there or you're not. So to me, I just think I'm not quite as comfortable there at 14 with Linderbaum. But if Bozeman doesn't come back, and that's the only way they can address it and feel good about it, then I get it. I think it's. I don't know. I guess
for me, I'll find a way to like this pick if it's Linderbaum. Like
that's what I feel like.
There's enough there that I'll do one hell of a highlight film room after we pick him.
The hope is all these pass protection is going to translate quickly and easily, and the processing is there, and you're just not worried about what happens in pass pro, so that you can build there. Otherwise, we'll see what happens in free agency. I mean, it's going to dictate so much of what happens on this offensive line, because they're going to have to bring in a tackle. I don't think AV's back. James, I'm not counting to do anything. And, Stanley in flux. So until then, I mean, it just stinks to draft an offensive lineman that's not a tackle right now, it feels like.
I can see that for sure. Or someone that has any sort of like Linderbaum's a center. And I think Bozeman's a center. So it's even like if Bozeman's re-signed, then Linderbaum goes out the window. No
exactly.
Chance. They're not going to do. Some people have asked, could they draft Linderbaum and move Bozeman back to guard? No. I spent too hard building up my Bozeman to center propaganda for that to happen, and that's just not happening. So that's kind of how I see it. I think we got the film. Great discussion with Spencer. You guys know Spencer better than you know me. You know where to find him at Ravens for Dummies on Twitter. Baltimore Beatdown podcast with Jake Luke, our guy. Spence, thanks so much for coming on, brother. You have any final words before we get off here?
Build the offensive line. It's time. This is our year. This is your year.
I think you're coming back for Trevor Penning. I think we're gonna have to do him together.
Let's do Penning. I just watched one game of Penning. I watched Iowa State.
Okay.
Penning.
Love it.
I love to rip it. This is our year. This is a great offensive line class. This is the nastiest offensive line class. And that's why I don't want to say, like you said, I don't want to say Linderbaum's not nasty, but he's in this class. There's some real dogs, man. And I would hate for the Ravens to miss out on that.
Anyway, thanks so much, man. To everyone out there, drop a comment, like the video. Let us know what you think. Be sure to subscribe to you guys watching football. We're going to be bringing about 2 to 3 of these live streams to you a week. So be sure to sub up so you don't miss them. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other.